No! Look at my plants! They're destroyed! What have the insects done to them? They are inedible! Oh my god! What am I going to do?
Ever heard of these three letters? GMO, genetic modified organism. It's the science of changing characteristics of a certain organism by human interest. What defines GMO is the process of changing its genes consciously. Before you can shout, alrighty, Oscar, you need some information. Hold on, we are going to guide you into the world of modified crops. But before we do that, some background history might help you.
Farmers have for thousands of years been altering the genetic makeup of the crops they grow by breeding in order to improve the agriculture. During the 19th century, the Austrian monk Gregor Mendel discovered the fundamental laws of inheritance. He toyed primarily with pea plants, a research which laid the foundation of the theory about how dominant or recessive alleles produces the traits we see.
The impact of Mendel's studies on trait inheritance became thereafter widely recognized during the 20th century. Since then, a broad range of techniques has been developed to improve crops' yields, and today scientists can, throughout genetic modification, make plants with a resistance to insects.
Genetic modification involves the introduction of new genes into an organism, usually from an unrelated organism, using artificial laboratory techniques. Let us take a look in our lab, where I believe our scientists are waiting to demonstrate the ways of modifying genes in crops for us.
Hello?
Hello! There are many different ways of changing the genome consciously. However, one of the most common one is the usage of this bacteria.
So let us have a look at it. As we know, bacteria cells consist of free-floating DNA and a plasmid, in this case the TI plasmid. This plasmid carries a DNA segment called tDNA, which can be transferred to a plant's DNA. When modifying, this plasmid is removed from the bacteria and gets cut open by a restriction nuclease. Normally, these genes within the tDNA strand causes tumors in the plant, but scientists have figured out a way to eliminate and thereafter replace these genes with others.
The recombinant TI plasmid is then replaced to an agrobacterium cell without a plasmid, and the bacteria can thereafter attach to a plant cell and begin the process of gene transfer into the chromosome. When this cell undergoes replication, the genotype from the TI plasmid is passed on to daughter cells, and it finally generates in an entire plant carrying this genome. In this case, the plant will produce a cry protein, which is a toxic against certain types of insects.
The genetic modified crops with higher insect resistance, the BT-GM crops, are most common used on corn for control of European corn borer and corn earworm. Other BT-GM crops are cotton and potato.
GMO has long been a hot potato.
This issue has always been twofold when it comes to utilizing this type of technique for growing purposes. Some people believe that GMO only brings devastation to us and our surroundings, while others strongly contradict. But how does this utility affect our well-being and the environment, considering the fact that this hot potato has two sides?
Hello. What if I told you that we can cure world hunger? Give food to the 800 million people that are starving every day. Now you might ask yourself, how would we be able to do this? Well, I tell you, 3 letters, GMO. Today, lots of the food that we harvest has been destroyed by insects, like the farmer we saw earlier. We could, with the help of GMO, prevent this from happening, which will mean that we get more food, which of course is a big step towards the goal of curing the world hunger.
But on the other hand, some people believe that genetically modified crops could in the long run result in insects that could consume these crops regardless if they were modified for higher insect resistance or not, which is caused by nature's natural selection process that selects those insects that have the most beneficial characteristics for genetically modified crop consumption. These insects would later carry these characteristics forward to the next generation, and as a result, insect food would therefore eventually be resistant to whatever genetically modified crops produce or contain to make them more insect resistant. That is why genetically modified crops might only be considered as a short-term solution for the world hunger and reduce use of crop products such as pesticides. Other health affection that GMO crops could cause is to our own personal well-being, which Professor Marlin will now talk about.
Yes, for there have been disagreements about the health risk with BT modified crops. Some argues that there are no major risks, while some contradicts. The biotech industry insists that the BT toxin to humans is harmless, since we have been exposed by the natural bacteria version that has been used as a spray in agriculture for several years. But I would not state this as a pure truth, though, because in reality, hundreds of people that have been exposed to BT spray have had allergic type symptoms. And the BT toxin in GM crops is designed to be even more toxic than the natural spray, and that is thousands of times more concentrated. It cannot either be rinsed off since it is stuck inside the genes. Moreover, a study with mice fed with BT modified nutrition showed that they had a powerful immune response and damaged enzymes, and thousands of sheep had died from BT cotton in India.
Well, I'm positive about modified crops since they become more insect resistant, and this will benefit the whole market. You understand it's much easier to keep this kind of crop, and you will expand the production since the survival rate of the crops is much higher, so the farmers' losses will be greatly reduced, and therefore the production costs will be reduced as well, and as a consequence of this there will be more high quality products in the market for much lower prices. So basically GMO allows the market to have positive growth.
Well, I mean, it's true that GM crops will represent a potential benefit for the growth and the farmers' loss, but that doesn't mean that the farmers in the long term will get a profitable return on their investment. These GM crops will be viable for only one growing season because they produce seeds that are sterile. Farmers would therefore need to buy a new supply of seeds each year, which means that the farmers have to be dependent on the engineering companies due to their patent rights. Seeds from GM crops are more expensive than other seeds, and consumers advocate that these new plant varieties will raise the price of seeds so high that small farmers in poor countries will not be able to afford these seeds. And this also disapproves the solution of world hunger.
GMO does not only provide us with a better economy and health, but it has also a positive effect on the environment that all living organisms are a part of. According to a report from Oklahoma State University, they concluded that the increase of GMO crops often requires less chemicals, time, and tools, and may help to reduce environmental pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, and soil erosion, which can improve the general beauty and health of the environment surrounding farms and contribute to the sustaining of better air and water quality, and can therefore indirectly benefit our personal well-being.
Even though some scientists say that GM plants can be a threat to biodiversity, since the cultivar's modified genes can spread to wild-related plants through pollination. This may cause a quick out-competing and generate in a less varied gene pool, which can be a disaster if there is a climate change and the unvariated species is not suited for it, and the population might even be extinct.
Hello?
But what about the ethical aspect of this? It must not be forgotten. By modifying genes in crops for our own good, we are thus controlling Mother Nature. Isn't that just madness? Who has decided that we should stand above the laws of nature?
Well, now we know that there are lots of different potential consequences following the change of the genome. There are contradictions on why we shall be worried that this progress of technique might be going too fast for us to handle.
But one thing is for sure, and that is the fact that we have this utility in our hands, which implies that it's our responsibility to decide what we should do with it.
And by that, it all comes down to one point, and that is you, since you are part of this deciding authority.
Oh dear, it wasn't that simple as I thought.